Hi, I'm Brooke. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you a story about how I manifested a lower car payment about 2 weeks after I had already had the car. And I live in California. There's no cooling off period. It's once you drive off the lot, that's it. So it was an interesting experience. And what I really learned is the power of focus and perspective. That is really what it's about. And that really shifted everything and shifted my external reality. And that leads me to tell you about who I am. I'm a fine art photographer. I am sitting in my art gallery in Manhattan Beach, California. This is some of my artwork behind me. I apologize for the glare. I'm sitting in front of a window and it's a very glary time of day. But what's so awesome about being a photographer is that I really am aware of the power of perspective. That you can take one. So, what I like to do, I call being in the moment, simple pleasures, enjoying what's right in front of you. So I can take a picture of like the same palm tree over and over and over and over, and it looks different in every picture because there's infinite ways really to look at the same thing. Like, for example, this is the Manhattan Beach Pier. And this is, let's see, I'm standing on like the north side of the pier. But I have pictures from the north side, south side. I have pictures underneath the pier, pictures on the sand, far away, close. People have drone shots. I don't do drones, but there's so many ways to look at this one pier. And if I was standing with another photographer right in the same spot, they would probably have a totally different picture. It might be similar, but it would still be slightly different. So, what I have learned is once you shift your perspective, really everything changes. And so that's really what happened to me, like in a really dramatic way in this story. So, car. So I lease cars. I've had so many different cars and so many different leases. And I like to think of myself as like good negotiator and all of that. And so for a lot of years, I had Mini Coopers. I love Mini Coopers, especially like in LA. It makes parking a lot easier. But so during COVID, I started to focus on selling my artwork. Before that, I had done content creation, social media management work for like freelance for a lot of different companies. And then I started to sell my art like little by little. And then when COVID happened, like I lost all the social media work. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to focus on selling my artwork. And I did. And I started to sell it. And I started to work with like retail furniture stores and I would put my artwork in their stores. And what's behind me here is small, but I have much bigger pieces. And mostly the bigger ones sell. But a Mini Cooper is small. And so what I would have to do is I started to have to always rent a car every time I wanted to take a piece to a customer or to a store. And it started to get to be a pain in the butt. So my lease was coming up. And so a couple things were happening. It was like, so there was a time, so as we were coming out of like COVID thing and things were opening up, there was like a manufacturing backlog, like there was no cars. So my lease came up at the worst, the worst time. I mean, it was absurd. There was like three cars on every lot, and like they didn't care to make a deal, nothing. You could get like a cheap car for like a high price. It was just sucked. And so I was in the situation where I thought I could buy out my Mini Cooper, but that's silly because I have to keep renting cars, right? And I also live in an old building. I live in a very beautiful historic building, but it's like 100 years old and the garages are really small. So I had enough room to get like a small SUV, but I couldn't get anything too big. So that also like limited me to only like a few type of cars. Um, so I had to get something big enough for the artwork, small enough for the garage. And in the past, when you turn in like when I would my a lease would come up, you could just go into any dealership with any car and they take it and you make a deal and whatever. But during this like shortage of cars, a lot of places were saying you have to return. Like I couldn't just take a Mini to a Ford dealer. They were like the Mini's owned by BMW. Like BMW wasn't allowing it. They were making you turn your car back into them. And I had gone way over the miles. Like I did the calculations. I would have owed them like $4,000 just to give them the car back before I would even get another car. So it was like in this situation where I was getting really like, shit, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to pay to give the car back. Then I'm going to have to get a car that's like ridiculously overpriced for what it is. And then I was like, or I could buy out the Mini, which is just too small at this point, and I'm gonna have to rent cars, and like none of it made any sense. I was really irritated. And one day I was out like in the sticks, and there was a Jeep dealership. I just walked in, started talking to them. Basically, their dealership, like they also owned a BMW dealership, so they basically made me a deal where they were able to take back the Mini and they gave me like a certain credit or whatever for that. And they had like a compact SUV, which I liked and which I like. This is what I got, a Jeep Compass. It was like the right size. And they made me a not so great deal for like the monthly payment, but I did all of the negotiating I could do. I got to the place where they finally, let me leave the property. I don't know how, if you're negotiating tip 101, like you keep getting up to leave and they keep stopping you. And then finally, when they let you go, like that's sort of the bottom. So they let me go. And the price was still a lot higher than what I had in mind. And I already had a high price in mind because I had done research of what was available. And so I was like, oh, shit. But they were willing to take the Mini. So that took off money. Um, and so I left. I did make some more calls. And finally, I was like, I think this is the best I can do. And then I'll have the bigger car, blah, 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 blah. So I went back, got the car, got home, and just how it is, you get in bed and then you think of the thing that bothers you the most. So I got in bed and then I was like, oh, I'm an idiot, this is terrible, I'm paying so much for an inexpensive car, what's wrong with me? They took advantage of me. I just went like totally down this road of just being so annoyed, thinking, man, I got taken advantage of, man, blah, 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 blah. And then I caught myself, I heard myself, and I was like, okay, I'd already started doing all this work where I was realizing I'm in charge of what I think, I'm in charge of how I focus. And I am focusing heavily on like this thing I don't want, right? And I said to myself, okay, first of all, it's done. You got the car. Like I said, in California, you can't take it back. You're done. This is your car now. Okay. So number one, I was like, okay, I'm done. Number two, I really don't think they took advantage. Like it really didn't feel like that. And then I thought, even if they did, so what, right? What if they did take advantage? Well, okay, maybe I made a mistake. Oh, well, right? What are you going to do? You beat yourself up forever. So what, right? And then I started to think, okay, I did my research. This seemed like the best thing I could do at the time, the best deal I could make at the time. Why did I want this car? Why didn't I keep the Mini? Why didn't I just buy it out? Right. And I remembered, oh, yeah, because the Mini is small and I had to go constantly renting cars and it was such a pain in the butt and it's expensive. And it was kind of holding me back too, because then I would try and like wait till I had a couple pieces. But if a store wanted one piece, I wouldn't take it to them. And that's like missing out on an opportunity. And I started to realize, it was a pain in the butt. It was holding me back. And so then I started to think about, okay, well, what's it going to be like to have this car where I can just drive to the framer, put a piece in the back, drive to a store, free. I don't have to stop at the enterprise rental or whatever and figure that out, right? What does that feel like? And I closed my eyes, I really started to feel it. And I could feel, oh my God, it felt amazing. Like I really felt basically freedom. That's what I was looking for, right? That's what the car was representing or offering me. I mean, of course, you're free or whatever, but it was offering me this mobility. And I started to feel it. I started to get so excited. And I started to realize this is amazing. I'm going to sell so many more pieces because now I can just drive things around town and I don't have to have this interim step that's driving me nuts. And I just really, I felt so good that after like I felt into it, I opened my eyes and I thought, I would pay more for this feeling. I would pay an even higher payment than I'm already paying. That's how good I felt. Like, and in that moment, I switched. Like, I went from going down here to like angry town to freedom. And oh my God, I could pay a higher payment. Doesn't matter. This is amazing. Right. And I felt this like it synced up and I meant it and I felt it and it didn't matter what had happened. And so then 11 days go by. This is really important. 11 days go by and I get a call from the dealership. So I have made my peace. I'm in this car. I'm having a great time moving things around. It's great. 11 days, I get a call from the dealership. Says, great news. We have a lower payment for you. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Right? Yeah, we have a lower payment. We need you to come in and sign the paperwork and blah, blah, blah. And so it's funny because so right after that, I had a call with my insurance agent and I told him about it. And he's like, this is a trap. They're going to take the car back. They probably have someone's going to pay higher. Nobody has any cars. They're going to take it from you. It's like, don't go. This is, he's like, I've never heard of such a thing. I've been selling insurance for 40 years. I've never heard of like a lower payment after you've had the car. And so I got like kind of paranoid, but deep down, I knew as soon as I got that call from the dealership, I knew it. I knew it's from I got myself so in sync with like the timeline or whatever you want to call it, with the version of me that was satisfied with the car and the payment and everything. I was satisfied with the payment where it was and felt the freedom of it and the pleasure of it and the satisfaction of it. I felt it so thoroughly in every cell of my body. It was just like, this is perfect. I'm good. And so when I got that call, I was like, oh yeah, I get it. This is for me. And I did do a little negotiating because the insurance agent made me a little skeptical. So I was like, I'm not sure about this, guys. And so because of that, they ended up paying like they paid one of my payments and they gave me like gas money and all this stuff. So what I found out, and this is why to time it's important to let timing play out. um, so the customer can't take the car back once you drive off, that's it. But the dealer, I didn't know this before that time, but the dealer, they have 10 days to get financing. And if they don't get the deal finance or whatever, they can like repossess your car. They have the opportunity to take the car back. But this is like the 11th day, right? So their window had just closed. And I guess whatever happened, they took too much time to file the paperwork. And the interest rates had dropped so dramatically in that time period that the bank wouldn't honor the higher payment. They made them do the lower payment if they wanted the bank to finance it. So, and the payment went down like $100. It went down to where I thought it was going to be. It's still maybe higher than the before COVID times, but more like basically what I had in mind. And it was at first, so I got the payment that I had in mind, and I got to learn this lesson of the power of focus, of just just making peace with, okay, this is where I'm at and where do I want to be? And then just really committing to that's where I want to be. And then really being there. I really went there and I really was at peace and I was really like harmonized and synchronized with what I wanted. And then just letting go. And I've heard Neville Goddard, those that teachings where he says that everything has its appointed hour. And I wasn't looking to manifest a lower payment. I mean, I never heard of such a thing. It wouldn't even occur to me to like think about doing that. But but what's so interesting is that they called me like right after their window of opportunity expired. And if I had been looking, let's say I was consciously trying to manifest something, if I had been looking like what needs to happen now, I wouldn't have wanted it even a day before, right? Because if they had realized, that the financing was off or whatever the day before, they could have just taken my car back, So it was like perfect timing. So I think it's such a good story because it really illustrated like all the things that I've learned about manifestation. At the time, I was just sort of moving through it and not really doing anything on purpose, except for that night, making peace with like, okay, this is where it's at. Do you want to keep beating yourself up and going down this road, or do you want to feel good? And I was like, I want to feel good. And it really, I genuinely got there and it was powerful and so powerful that I got a lower car payment in California 11 days after I drove off the lot. So great. And I have the car still. I love it. It carries everything I needed to, and it fits in my garage. So that's my story. Focus is really important, perspective. You can look at the same thing in a million different ways. Don't ever let yourself get stuck. This is a reminder to me and to you, right? If you're going through something and it feels shitty, ask yourself, like, is there another perspective here? Can I see it a little bit different? Not that there's anything wrong. Hey, this point of view is great. That's fine, right? You don't want to fight against it. Just go, okay, this is what I'm looking at right now. Could I stand over here? Could I stand up higher? Could I get down? Can I shift it a little bit? It's just as easy as taking a picture of an object and moving around the object. You look at whatever's bothering you, whatever circumstances or whatever, as like an object you're taking a picture of. Can I move around and see a different perspective? And if you find, once you find the perspective you like, you can really go all in on it. Wild stuff can happen. Could I don't know how much money I've saved, right? I mean, it's just like you could have this amazing thing happen that nobody's ever heard of before, although probably I get comments, right? Someone will tell me, oh, I've gotten a lower payment, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'd be curious, has that happened to anyone else? Because I had never heard of it before. All right, so that's my story. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed it, and if you have gotten a lower payment, then please share the story. And if you have any other manifestation fun things to share, go ahead and share them in the comments. And I will see you in the next video. Okay.